All right, here we go. Let's get busy. All right, let's get started, man. Let's get started. All right, here we go. Hey, yo, what it is and what's good, y'all? Welcome back to 280 Plus, the social media podcast where I take the conversations off the timeline and go beyond the tweets, the posts, the retweets, all that good stuff, man. I'm your host, Los Dev, and I'm back here for episode 165 of the platform. If you're new to the channel on YouTube, I'd like you to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It goes a long way. Helps the platform grow, helps us in the algorithm and all that. Leave a comment if you want to join the conversation. If you got any reactions to what we're talking about, share the content. If you know anybody that's kind of into this type of talk, you know what I mean? We're going to be talking about just different topics that's going on the internet. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some sports. We got some transactions. We got some suspensions to talk about. We also got some things that kind of hit the national news this week, and we're gonna kind of react to some of that. And obviously, there's good news now with some of those headlines. And then we're gonna talk about a controversial figure, a controversial whistleblower in the game, and we just gonna, because this person's on a media run, and you'll probably know who I'm talking about, right? Just as I'm kind of describing this, all right? And then maybe another reaction maybe to something. Oh, we have a reaction to a video where I don't know, man. I think I believe what's said in this video, but although like when I look at the social media, I'm seeing people like looking at this person like they're a liar as well, or like they capping. But I don't see why you would think that. And then we do got a Beetlejuice reaction. Beetlejuice. So I did just go see Beetlejuice with my son. I did just go see Beetlejuice, and we're gonna kind of react to that and give my opinions, man. But definitely, I'll just say this: it's definitely something worth seeing. It's definitely a fun movie, and we'll get into that though. So, yeah, man, where do we start? Where do we start? So, how y'all been though? How y'all been, man? I've been, busy, like always, like everybody else. So I'm not complaining or anything like that. But definitely, I felt like this was a busier week than normal. I definitely want to get some people back on, man. It's just to kind of share the conversation a little bit, share the load a little bit. I like to have a good. It's hard to have good music conversations when you as an individual, me as a person, I don't feel like there's a lot of great music out. There's not a lot to talk about with music per se. It's a lot of stuff like the drama around music. So, but I would like to have a good music conversation pretty soon. I'd like to have a good sports conversation. You know what I mean? Because it is the middle of football season, my favorite sport to watch. And so, definitely want to probably get my man Jabbar Harris on here to bust it up. But even other fans of other teams, anybody who is vocal. If you have any suggestions, I could probably reach out and do my thing. I actually want to I do want to kind of explore some of the there's a lot of content creators that I like really I'm really feeling their content, and I would like to do like some interviews with some people like that just to have some fun and stuff like that. So kind of get back into like the roots of things. But we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see. It's definitely everybody's busy and things like that. So we just trying to we definitely trying to just be consistent and drop the content on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. And the chips gonna fall where they fall though. So all right. So first things first. First things first. Definitely wanted to talk about the port strike, right? The strike with the port workers. And so earlier in the week, early in October, right? We had there was an announcement that and a lot of people were kind of anticipating this already. Like right when they were talking about this, I guess maybe people caught some headlines and people were worried. They were like, yo, you might want to start stocking up on some goods and things like that because there probably is going to be a strike of the port of the dock workers, the port workers. And so like it was something that I didn't really like. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit ignorant to it and I didn't even look into it at all. And so people were telling you to stock up. And then it was, I think, October 1st. They hit the picket lines. They hit the picket lines. And it had a lot of people kind of in a panic a little bit. People were buying up all the toilet paper, right? So here's the thing, right? People were buying up the toilet paper, they were buying up a lot of goods. But this is where I am confused. Before we get into like the facts and like kind of what the strike was about and the strike and just good news though. The strike is over. The strike is over. The strike ended. It only lasted like 2 days. Like the strike actually only lasted 2 days. There is a tentative agreement that's gonna go through like January 15th, I believe, where they did agree to some terms. We're gonna talk about those terms. And until they like, and then they're gonna try to like finalize it and then like, put it in. So a contract is usually like about 6 years. And we normally don't hear about these things. So the organization or the union that went into strike is called they are called the ILA, which is, I think it's the International Longshoremen's Association, right? Yeah. So basically, there was a strike that was pending. There was a strike that was about to go down, and the ILA, they have port workers that work from all the way down the East Coast and even the Gulf Coast, right? And the ILA has over 45,000 workers, right? 45,000 workers, right? So the International Longshoremen's Association. And so first off, uh, and we're gonna get into the criticism. I'm gonna go back to what I was talking about with toilet paper. But so first off, let's talk about the demands, right? The demands. So these port workers, they had some issues because they felt like their pay was low, right? They felt like their pay was low. And one of the things that they talk about is the fact that back during the pandemic, right? And like probably right after the pandemic, what they noticed was that all these corporations and all these companies were obviously raising their prices to everything. And, companies that might have been like, $1 million companies, like in the high millions. I'm not talking about like low millions, but high $1 million companies during that time and over the last like 4 years, they turned into $1 billion corporations, right? And so I think these people, they realize how important they are to the economy because if they don't work, right, all the things that we want that we get imported here, all the things that we want, it can't get to the next destination, right? So like there's these log jams with shipping. You're probably not getting some items that you want to get, right? Like the items that you're supposed to be receiving. The stores that you shop at aren't getting the items that they're supposed to be receiving. And it's just it causes like supply chain issues. And that was the biggest thing. And this is one thing that people don't really want to talk about a lot of times, but uh like when we talk about inflation and when people talk about politics and whatnot, uh it's easy to blame the politicians and the executive branch and people that are in charge, but like the thing is when it comes to the economy and when it comes to like what we call inflation or what we notice as like prices start to rise, it wasn't just inflation, guys. Like there was a supply chain issue, and like that was one of the biggest things that they talked about. So and it was because like during COVID and like it took like a year and a half for like stuff to like really like from the pandemic when it started. It took almost a year and a half for things to kind of start moving normally. And so like there was a lot of log jams at these ports. And so what these union workers realized was that like, yo, they're making mad money, but like when we get our new contract, when our contract is up, because here's the thing, they didn't go on strike prior to the contract being up. They waited till the contract is up, and they felt like, well, y'all making mad bread, and we kind of, if we stopped working, it messes up all that, whatever. So like, we want a lot more. Like, we don't just want a little bit more pay. We want a lot more pay over the next several years. So they demanded a 77% pay raise over the 6 year life of the contract. So the base salaries for a lot of these dock workers is about $81,000 a year. So talk about jobs that don't require any like formal education or any 4 year degree. There's a lot of good jobs out there. So $81,000, they say that that approximates to be about like $39 an hour, which, you know, that sounds like great money to me. And they said that like there's people in certain ports, like especially in like New York, that make well over $200,000 a year. And here's the thing, though, they work mad hours, like they work mad overtime. And a lot of times these guys sacrifice being with their families and things like that. So like, you know, so there are great jobs out there without needing a 4 year degree. And these people felt like, hey, we're vital to the economy, and we want to raise. And here's the thing: you talking about it's a unionized thing. So like whatever that is, and however they decide to choose people, that's something where sure, I think individual people can be fired, but like you can't fire 45,000 workers. Like you can't fire that. And like you would almost need to like you would almost need to break free from the union and and hire like a brand new union, because there's no way to replace that many workers um just on a port by port basis, on an individualized basis, right? Like you got a lot of people that are like, yo, because in the meantime, stuff is gonna get messed up. So they also they wanted to completely end automation. So obviously, when we talk about manual labor jobs, when we talk about manufacturing jobs, right? And that's another thing. A lot of people are threatened by not just AI, but like literally, and what we call AI, and when we talk about like tech, well, they're worried about technology in terms of like how it affects manual labor. So like when places start to automate more, you don't need human bodies, or at least that's what these corporations and these companies feel like. They feel like they don't need human bodies anymore. And so they're like, no, y'all got to stop this stuff because you're threatening our livelihoods, and we're important and we need humans to do these jobs. And then I think there was some issues with benefits and things like that. So that gets really like technical there. So the thing is with this strike, what was people were worried about was the supply chain, especially kind of headed into the holiday season. Now, what I read right through the AP was that most companies though, like they already got their shipments for like the holiday season. Like they already know what they need, and like there's a lot of stuff stored in warehouses, right? But just in the meantime, and like on a smaller scale, yeah, it does affect the supply chain, and people were worried that it would reignite inflation, because that's all people were talking about: inflation, inflation, inflation. But what they're failing to realize that it's not just inflation. Inflation is just the value of the dollar being minimized because we're printing too much money. But what's also happening is literally corporate price gouging. Like there's literally companies that like they don't have to charge what they are charging, right? But kind of like with the pandemic and things like that, they felt like they can kind of get away with it. And they knew that just overall in society, we could blame it on inflation, and people won't, they're just gonna be mad at the president, they're gonna be mad at the legislative branch, they're gonna be mad at the new president, whoever. They're gonna be mad at the politicians, but nobody's gonna really look at us. But the ILA, they're on the ground floor when it comes to like these items coming in, and they looked at it for what it was, and they're like, no, like y'all was raising prices and y'all was making mad money, so we need our cut. We need a bigger cut to that. One thing that they said was that closed ports, right? When these ports are closed, it costs the economy approximately 3.8 to 4.5 billion dollars per day. And that's JP Morgan. Like they did the study and they calculated it to that. 3.8 3.8 billion to 4.5 billion per day. Like that's how much it affects the economy. So like this was not an issue that we wanted it to linger on for a long time. Like this was something that like needed to change and needed to happen right away. And fortunately it did. Like it only like they were only on strike for maybe 2 full days. And we got a resolution. It's a temporary resolution for now. But the thing is, if we don't hear about this again, that's good news. Like if we don't hear about it again, it's good news. And the thing is, we've never really heard about it. The last time the ILA went on strike was 1977. So like there's a good relationship with the Maritime Alliance and the ILA to where like they've been able to kind of figure this out for decades, right? And we just kind of had a hiccup. It's been almost 50. I mean, you talk about almost 50 years, I mean, of non-strike years, I mean, 47 years. And things have been kind of been moving smoothly. So like we're going to, hopefully, like I said, when after January 15th, when that the temporary contract kind of, dissipates and things like that. Hopefully they are able to finalize it and end all negotiations and things like that, and like everything is stamped and sealed. And then and the thing is, if we don't hear about it at all, then that's good news. And the thing is, for the most part, we've never really heard about this type of stuff. My opinion about it though is, yeah. So let's kind of get into this. It's the fact that um I'm not about to make claims about, what an actual profession and union workers should make. Like I'm not about to say like this is not the same as like the fast food workers several years ago asking for, $20 an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not that. Like these are professionals, right? And they are an integral part of our economy, right? So I'm not about to get into no discussion about that. I do think that they deserve the money that they earn, right? Like it's a job that I wouldn't want to do, and it's not easy work. It's hard labor. It's very physical. It's painstaking. It's backbreaking, right? So I'm not. You ain't never gonna hear me say, even though I'm somebody that I don't really do too much manual labor. You know what I'm saying? I got degrees and things like that. But like I appreciate what they do, and I do recognize how important they are. Um, Automation though is an unfortunate thing, right? It is an unfortunate thing because it does take jobs away, but in the long run, it is supposed to make things more efficient, right? And when you think about when things are a little bit more efficient, prices can go down, right? So can go down. So like that's the catch 22 when it comes to the automation stuff. One where it's like I don't want nobody losing their job, but also as being selfish, I want my stuff quicker. I want the prices of stuff to go down, possible. There are probably, union workers out there that, again, I'm not going to characterize anybody because I don't know anybody that works on the ports or the docks, whatever. But there are probably obviously workers that don't do a good job, right? So I think automation is to kind of like nip some of that in the bud and like weed some of that out. But again, it's something that is like it's a little bit dangerous because it can make these workforces a lot smaller. And then, you're gonna have people out of work and displaced and needing to figure out what they need to do. Now, in terms of the current agreement, right? So the union agreed to us. So they wanted a 77% raise. The Maritime Alliance, who they were making the negotiations with, they were stuck at like a 50% raise of wages. Well, in this tentative deal, they agreed to a six. They say they met in the middle somewhere, right? And they agreed to a 62% raise. And there is a tentative deal where they said they're not going to increase automation, like whatever because that's the thing. They wanted to get rid of automation. So whatever automation they already had. A lot of these port workers, this union, that was like, no, get rid of it. Like throw this stuff away. Yeah, I mean, and this line, they're like, well, we not about to throw it away, but here's what we'll do. We just won't build and add more automation At least until the contract is over. Like we'll see. We'll look at terms afterwards and see what we can do because we might need to go in a different route. So again, when January 15th comes around, if you don't hear anything, that is absolutely good news. That's good news. But I guess I'm gonna go back to the one last thing about it is the toilet paper, right? When people were buying, like, why was y'all stocking up on all this toilet paper? Why was y'all stocking up on baby wipes and stuff like that? Like, why was y'all stocking up on items like that, right? Here's the thing. I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to bet. Like anybody could bet me. You know what I'm saying? I almost guarantee toilet paper and baby wipes and stuff like that. Those are not items that we import. Those are not things that we bring into the country. We have factories here in America that make those things. That's the thing that people like. Let's not forget. We make a lot of things. Like we export a lot of stuff too. You know what I'm saying? We export so many things, like probably more than any other country. You know what I'm saying? Like we might not have certain fruits and produce and things like that like everywhere. Like we don't have the tropical stuff or for example, bananas. They talk about like bananas was one of the things that they said like, oh my God, like so many bananas come in, I mean, through these ports and now it'll like, it'll shut it down and things like that. But I'm sure there's Scott factories and Charmin factories and Angel Star factories, all quoted Northern factories and whatever companies that make that stuff, like whether it's Procter and Gamble or whatever. There are companies here that make that stuff. So like to stock up on toilet paper is asinine because it's asinine and it's your ass, not mine. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, what are y'all doing? Like that is not an import. That's not something that we have to like rummage for. And then like people that are just getting their normal supply of toilet paper like they normally would, like some people go once every couple weeks or so. They couldn't even get what they needed. I mean, because y'all was in the big box stores buying it all up. I mean, in a panic when that's like I feel like that it's important. That's important. TP is important, but it's like it's not that serious. It's never that serious. But and also just the fact that like the whatever store that you took that from or bought that from, they're gonna be able to resupply. You know what I'm saying? Might take a little bit because y'all depleted that shit completely, but it's not something that I think even if there was a port strike, that's toilet paper is not something that you need to be tripping about because we make toilet paper here in America. So let's move on. Let's move on, man. It's something else. Let's move on. All right. Now I'm just gonna touch on this real quick and because I don't really know where to go with this. Now, we live in an era, I'm just saying that we live in an era where if you say the most provocative things to in these day and age, you get the most attention, right? And people automatically view it as true. And then sometimes, these people they say things and like they might be right a little bit and so then it kind of adds to their credibility but like I don't know what to fully believe but what who I'm talking about is Jaguar Wright. So Jaguar Wright, she was a musical artist. I guess she made some music way back in the day. And I'm not gonna criticize her about her relevance or anything like well, not yet. Not yet. I might. I'm not gonna hold myself to that. I might criticize her. Her big claim to fame, she was in this like one Sprite commercial or Coca-Cola commercial like back in the day, and like she sang in it and whatever. Like that was like that's the in terms of FaceTime, in terms of like people seeing her, that's what people kind of remember from. And like I said, she's part of like the neo soul movement. So she did some background vocals for different groups and different singers and stuff like that. But like she doesn't have a name per se by herself. So she's on a media run right now. So Jaguar Wright is always been on record to be a person that is talking about the industry, right? And her main focus now is obviously Diddy, right? And a lot of people are like, see, because she was talking about this type of stuff before, like some of the allegations, and then she was just saying, oh, he did this, he did this, he did this, and she makes a lot of claims that just feel outlandish. Now, on one hand, people are like, well, nobody's suing her for defamation, so like it has to be true. Well, here's the thing with defamation, right? you have to, so not only you don't just sue because somebody is saying things that are false about you. You have to prove that the things that they're saying about you is directly impacting your livelihood, like your, like, for example, your income. Like you have to prove, like, yo, since Jaguar Wright said this stuff about me, yo, my bottom line is has dropped down this much, whatever. The thing is with somebody like Jaguar Wright, because she kind of spews stuff out the way she does, there are people that believe it, right? But then there's a lot of people that be like, they ignore it. Like a lot of famous people ignore the stuff that she's saying. Like, and because she's, as much as she probably wants to, she's not always affecting somebody's dollar. Now, there is maybe a gray area, and there's probably some question as to, like, did the things that she's saying online, did that lead to federal investigations? I would say no. I would say no. I would say the lawsuit, I would say the civil suits led to, some criminal investigations about these things. I'm not saying they not listening to her, but I don't think the feds are listening necessarily to Jaguar Wright because she's saying so many things. Now, so she's on a media run. So she was on Piers Morgan, and like she kept going on about what she's going on with. Now, talking about Diddy, it's pretty much, you could say anything about Diddy, and I think everybody's gonna believe you for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And because we're getting evidence, we're getting more claims, and he's facing this big old, criminal investigation, right? He got indicted, right? He's in prison right now. Another name that she keeps dropping is Jay-Z, Sean Carter. And I ain't about to, I don't want to be accused of like hero worship or anything like that, but it's like, I don't know, we just never have heard anything. Like, we might hear people disgruntled with Jay-Z because of business and because certain things didn't work out the way people wanted it to work out. But like I've never heard any allegations of him, doing anything foul. Now, people they just starting to dig. Like we just live in this era where everybody starts, they hear one thing and then they start digging. So like people are digging into like his relationship with Beyonce, and like when did they actually get into a relationship and things like that. And my thing is this. That's his wife, like, and that's his wife of like Matt. Like, I how long, I don't know, how long have Jay-Z and Beyonce been married? How long? Let's see. How long? Let's see. How long have Jay-Z how long have they been married? They've been married for 16 years. So I think that's what makes it a little bit complicated, because it's like it ain't like, he, if he met her when she was younger, like, and people are making it seem like he groomed her or something like that. She could have been got out of this relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like that. We've heard him that he's cheated, but we've never heard any allegations of abuse, right? Nothing has ever come out about Jay-Z, like, like being weird in like a sexual way. Like we've never heard that before. So like for her, like she's like doubling down on this type of stuff. And because it's connected to Diddy, and because, Jay-Z and Diddy, they're not necessarily, I wouldn't say they're best buddies or anything like that, but like they obviously have hung out with each other. They know each other, obviously. Um, it's easy to kind of like, maybe she's on to something when she talks about Jay-Z, but like there's just no proof. Like there's no proof. And her saying it doesn't make it true. Like her saying it doesn't make it true. And I'm not about to look at Beyonce as no fucking victim of Jay-Z. Like I'm just not. Now, I'm always, when it comes to the stuff like this, stuff I don't know personally, I don't necessarily die on a hill, but I have to see it to believe it. Like I just can't believe stuff like this without actually knowing facts about it. I'm not gonna co-sign that he did this and did that if we don't have substantial evidence. Now, when as the Diddy investigation grows, and as more details comes out, as the trial takes place, whenever that is, And if he gets implicated and they had to investigate him and things like that, sure. But like she's making it like, well, he's this powerful man. He's making things go away. And it's like, man, I don't know what to tell y'all. I do not know what to tell y'all. I don't buy into that. Like conspiracy theory, so to speak. People got on DJ Vlad too. It was funny because people was like, oh, because DJ Vlad was kind of like, I don't want to say that we was on the same page, but like he was definitely working to discredit Jaguar Wright on Piers Morgan. And the comments was flooded with people like, because I seen it on YouTube, I seen the interview, and the comments was flooded, and they was like, oh, DJ Vlad must be a part of it because look, he can't even look in the camera. He can't even look straight into the camera and things like that. Like, oh, he has to be a part of it. And then people were like, "Oh, I would never watch DJ Vlad again. Oh, Vlad lost all respect." And I'm thinking like, niggas been did not like Vlad. Like they're like I have not liked DJ Vlad like almost forever. Like there's and I don't like his platform because he be having dudes say like he be publishing incriminating like interviews about guys, and I don't like him because now granted it's a lot of times it's the people that are putting themselves in these positions, but I just be feeling like, why are you asking these questions in the first place? Like, why is your platform built on that? So it just, to me, there was this eye opening when people were like, oh, I lost respect for him. And I'm thinking, like, you lost respect for him based off what he thinks or what he's saying about Jaguar, right? But like, you never lost respect for him when he's putting out stuff that's like leading to people getting indicted. And again, those people don't have to say anything, but like when you're in the business of like being controversial and shocking and like um getting people to and that's the thing, like is he convincing them, is he persuading them to say the stuff? No. But like when you're in the business of that, I just can't get behind that. I can't get behind that, and I can't be like, oh yeah, yeah. So I've really never had respect for DJ Vlad. The information that he gets, a lot of times it is credible though. Like the only thing you could say about DJ Vlad is that he be getting true information. He be getting credible information from a lot of people, and he doesn't entertain too much of like super rumors. Like he don't really entertain like a lot of stuff that like but he does drudge up the past a lot of times, and then stuff be coming out just in these conversations, and it's like he might as well be a fed. I mean, he might as well be an investigator as opposed to like he's not even a DJ anymore, but like being this like media personality where you having these like weird ass interviews with people. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought it was funny. But I don't know, man. We're gonna see. This Diddy stuff is turned in weird because there's this I don't know. There's apparently a bidding war for some type of video that involves like a minor, and I'm thinking like if he committed a crime, like a sexual crime with a minor, wouldn't that be like, child pornography? You know what I mean? I said that word and weird and on a for a reason. Um, wouldn't that fall into child pornography? You know what I'm saying? Like and like to my knowledge is like when you obtain it, like when you have it in your possession and when you disseminate it or send it, like both parties get in trouble. So like apparently there's some type of video out there. This is where it gets weird, and I don't really dig into too much stuff like that. But that involves a minor, a very young minor, and like apparently like there's like news outlets that are like in a bidding war to get it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? All right, let's move on. Let's move on. What we got next? What we got next? Let's see. Oh, okay. All right. Let's have some fun, man. Let's get on a lighter note. On a lighter note, let's talk about Beetlejuice. Let's talk about Beetlejuice. So it is hot, Halloween is is slowly approaching. And the Beetlejuice movie been out for like a month now. You know what I'm saying? But I finally got around to seeing it. And this is what I'll say though about Beetlejuice. I would say that I should have watched I should have watched the original Beetlejuice just to refresh my memory of the premise of it. Like who the hell is Beetlejuice? Like what was the purpose of it? Like what, you know, it's definitely a movie and definitely a character that's iconic in terms of like just pop culture. When I was little, obviously the Beetlejuice movie came out. There was a Beetlejuice cartoon show that was long running. Everybody, people had, I had Beetlejuice toys. There was Beetlejuice everything. There was Beetlejuice everything back in the day. So I think it is cool that they decided to make a sequel or like, and it's not a remake, right? It's not a remake, but it is a sequel. So Michael Keaton is in it, Winona Ryder's in it, Catherine O'Hara is in it, and then they got some new people too. They got some new people. Um, but so yeah, I should have watched the old one to kind of refresh my memory. One thing that this movie did a good job of was reminding us of the older plot points, right? So there are many moments in the movie. You don't have to see the old Beetlejuice to see the new Beetlejuice, but there were a lot of moments where they um they talked about stuff that happened in the old movie, and it kind of helped to fill in the gaps a little bit. So let's see, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. That's what the new movie's called. I'm just gonna see on Rotten Tomatoes it's 77%. That's pretty good. IMDb is a 7 out of 10. So like people definitely enjoyed it for sure. Um, but yeah, like they did a good job of reminding you of the old plot points. Like the fact that he tried to like if you don't even remember, like one thing with Beetlejuice was back in the day, he tried to trick a character named Lydia Dietz, who is played by Winona Ryder, into marrying. He tried to trick her into marrying him so he could like come back to life because like he's like a demon. He's a trickster demon and he does all this like funny stuff and cool, weird stuff. But he was trying to come back to life. I definitely felt the nostalgia of watching it, right? This, so I'm on this kick right now where I'm showing my son like older 90s movies, right? And it's 90s movies that I love when I was a kid. It's 90 movies that like they just, there was a lot of movies back in the day that like you might not have seen in the movie theater, but if you had like HBO, you had Showtime, Cinemax, right? Like these are movies that like just a staple of your life. There's so many channels that like were showing movies on TV and things like that. So like we had to, back in the day, we had to watch what was there, whatever was on, right? Unless you were, and my family was not a DVD buying family. We were not a VHS buying family. We did not buy VHS tapes. We rented a lot of tapes though. Like we were definitely, regular members of Blockbuster. There was another video store called Hollywood Video. There was other smaller ones too. Like I remember there was this one called Spectrum Video. There was one that turned into Hollywood Video eventually. But yeah, so like we used to watch movies a lot because you weren't always going to the theater. You couldn't always catch the movie theater stuff, but like you can watch it like at your home. And but it definitely felt like so a lot of things with 90s movies. It felt like a typical 90s movie where there's actually like a soft plot. Like the plot, there's a plot that runs along the whole movie, but like it doesn't really matter. Like it's not that serious, especially a movie like Beetlejuice. It don't even matter what it's about. It's a fun movie. It's supposed to be funny. There's supposed to be wild moments and things like that. And but yeah, it's one of those 90s movies where there's a soft plot, but then there's all types of like wild and weird things happening in the middle, right? That like really grab your attention. And it's about the spectacle more so about than the story. Like it's not about storytelling, it's just about fun and it's just about entertainment. It was definitely funny. And there was like when you watch a movie like Beetlejuice, there's like so many things to pay attention to on the screen. Like, and there's so many Easter eggs and so many things that you'll miss if you don't really pay attention. So like the reason why it was good was because it felt like that. It felt like I was watching a movie from back in the day. But obviously modernized. But like there was so many things to pay attention to. So it was like really, really entertaining. Like I said, it was definitely funny. There's a couple memorable moments in this film, though. So the most memorable moment to me was Baby Beetlejuice. Like, yo, that was the scare. Like, there's just a scene where this baby Beetlejuice pops out. I'm not gonna say why it pops out or how it pops out, but there's this baby Beetlejuice, And this is the scariest looking baby I've ever seen in my life. Like, but it was like disturbing looking, but it was also funny as hell. Um, Another memorable moment, like that we meet Beetlejuice's like old wife and like the backstory behind like why she's dead and like how he died and stuff like that. Like so it was good. Like that was a memorable moment. But then there's also another memorable moment was the fact that there's like a really good plot twist. But it is definitely overall, it's definitely a movie I would recommend. Uh, Go catch it while it's still in theaters. I think Beetlejuice should be a movie that stays in theaters through Halloween. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that sometimes these movies like they leave the box office and we you got to wait till whatever platform picks it up. I wonder what platform this would stream on first. I'm curious. I don't know what studios is necessary behind this, but like it could be. I could definitely see it being like a Netflix, a Peacock, something like that. Some type of something like that. Maybe Paramount. It might be like a Paramount Plus thing for all we know. But yeah, definitely go see that. If you haven't seen Beetlejuice, it's definitely something fun to watch with your kid too. Even though there are like some moments where it's like it's a little uncomfortable, but it's good, man. I think that's good for the soul, man, of seeing a movie that's fun like that. So, all right. Before we get into sports, because I got a couple sports topics. Before we get into sports, I wanted to react to one thing. I wanted to react to one of these things here, and so we talked about Jaguar Wright, right? And how like she might not necessarily be the most credible person, right? So I seen another video. I seen a video about something and it makes you wonder and think like, is it can we believe this story? Like, is this a believable thing? Whatever. But I'm gonna say right now, I believe it. I believe it. There's no reason for me not to believe this. But the comment section had a lot of people. The comment section had a lot of people like feeling some type of way and like and saying like, nah, he's capping. But I feel like, what reason would this guy have the cap, right? So let's check this out. So did you know? And I don't know where this came from. I don't know like what platform this guy was on, what interview he was conducting. But there's a guy that says that he was Jeffrey Dahmer's plug, right? Like drug, like and what kind of drugs? Like again, if I find the full interview, I'll check it out and I'll look at it, and it's gonna probably make you all want to check it out too. But there's a guy, the guy that says he was his drug plug, right? And he knew Jeffrey Dahmer and like but didn't know that he was doing all these things, right? Whatever. So let's watch this video, right? And you give me your reaction. Tell me what you think, whatever. I'm gonna tell you right now, I believe him. Like ain't nothing that he said to me sound like a lie, but I'm gonna let y'all be the judge. What do you think? All right, hold on. Here we go. Yeah, we're gonna play this real quick. Here we go. I think this is gold. This is gold to me. And one of the channel or the page that I seen it on it's one of my favorite channels now, a growing channel. It's called The Culture Is Ours. And they always talk about like black topics and things like that. So he was Jeffrey Dahmer's plug, but had no idea he was a serial killer. So let's hear what he got to say here. Oh, hold on. I gotta make sure that we can share the sound. Here we go. Yep. Set this up. Okay, here we go. Check it out.
Serve that nigga all the time.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
The fuck? You served Jeffrey?
All the time. I knew the nigga. Like I knew the nigga.
Do you feel a little responsible for doing shit? Hell no.
No, with us, we was in Milwaukee. We was at before that nigga moved over there. We was on the corner. It was called the Hill downtown. It all went up on a hill, and it was on 24th and Kilbourne. That's where we was at. And when he moved over there, we was just thinking we thought he was the police at first. He was all clean cut and shit, walking back and forth from the chocolate factory he was working. We didn't know who the fuck this nigga was. You know what I'm saying? So one day I asked him. He came up. He was nervous because he was like, I said, hey man, what you doing over here, man? He said, my father got an apartment around the corner. He would stutter, so when he was nervous, he'd say shit twice. And I said, okay, well, you know, you look like, you know, because I knew he was too old to be a student in Marquette. I knew he was too clean to be a hype. So what the fuck is this nigga doing over here? He don't look like the police, but he might be a motherfucking, you know. We had all kind of spots around there. You know, we had a spot in his building. You know what I'm saying?
So first off, like, yeah, like, yeah, I mean, when you know, a white man moves into a neighborhood, you know, and if you in, you know, if you the plug, whatever, you paying attention to everybody. You paying attention to everybody, whatever. So like, you know, and it's obviously like, because obviously the headlines and stuff like that. So this guy put it together, you know what I mean, or whatever. He was like, oh, yo, this is, you know what I mean, this is crazy, whatever. But like, I could see that. I could see that. And all that adds up, you know what I mean? Because we did know that Jeffrey Dahmer's father was like giving him money to like live in this area, right? And he was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right? Because all this was happening in Wisconsin, like most of the murders. Now, he lived in different places, but Wisconsin was where it went down. So let's keep going.
Saying like we like, so then I started seeing the nigga like he was hanging out with these dudes, and they would want to buy drugs from us, and my niggas would give it to him, and like, it was just nothing. It was just like serving niggas. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this nigga get high. All right, cool. This nigga get high. That's what we was on.
Yeah. Where was you at when you seen the news clip?
It wasn't no news clip, nigga. I was on the phone arguing with my ex on the payphone. Then all I see helicopters and shit. And I'm thinking, ain't none of us around here serving that much for no motherfucking helicopters and shit. I'm like, wait the fuck a minute, who is this nigga they going after? Because it was apparently like you seen news trucks and shit like that. So I was like, okay, they ain't after none of us. So now I want to know what the fuck going on. Mother chick little crackheads, I'm like, that motherfucker was eating people. I said, what? Who, Jeff?
What? Who, Jeff? No, that would be the reaction. That would definitely be the reaction. I'd be like, yo, what? Wait up, time out. The white boy, and yeah, like I could, you know what I mean, I could see him learning his name and things like that, whatever. And yeah, I'm looking here at the screen. It says there's some channel here, the Young Boss, but it says Tony Neal. So that's this guy. His name is like Tony Neal. So all right, and you probably could look him up. It says DJ Tony Neal. So let's keep going.
And he didn't go kidnap no motherfucker. They was coming to him, but they weren't leaving.
So remember, Jeffrey Dahmer, all his victims, or most of his victims, majority of his victims were black men. So this was obviously this was a black neighborhood. Like we know that to be true. Like we know that this was a black. It wasn't like this guy could have been in the suburbs and things like. No, he was living in the hood. Like he was living in a city apartment building. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't nice. It wasn't nice or anything like that. So like it wasn't some high rise or some affluent area. It was the hood. You know what I'm saying? And we know that a lot of his victims were black men, and like he targeted homosexual black men, you know what I'm saying? And that was the thing too. Like, and what we know is that like, yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer he wasn't beating people up and dragging them into his house. He was making advances. He was going to these clubs, to these gay clubs and stuff like that, and he was bagging dudes. And you know, he was having interactions with dudes, you know what I mean, sexual encounters with dudes, but they were going to his house, and he was killing them in the house, all different types of ways. You know what I mean? Drugging them. Drugs, you know what I'm saying? Probably a mix of things. He probably had some party drugs, but he probably also had some stuff to knock people out, all that type of stuff, right? So let's keep going.
We was in the hood, dog. We didn't give a fuck. We wasn't looking at that. We didn't really pay attention to it. So we never thought nothing like that was going on, bro. Nothing. And that fucked me up for a while, man, because I knew what we was into, and we could have got him if we knew it.
Right.
Like, we knew that, and that would have never made the news. Would have been fucked up.
Yeah.
And any motherfucker that was in the way with this nigga, even though he was by himself, right, it would have been so bad that niggas would have been taking out niggas that had nothing to do with it.
Right.
You was with this nigga too? Like, it would have been like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You was friends with that nigga too? It would have turned out the whole thing if really niggas really knew what was happening. You know what I'm saying? And then when he went to jail, a nigga that I went to school with killed him.
Wow.
We was there when he moved over there. Not just discovered the nigga. We seen the nigga every fucking day.
Was you in the Netflix that, bro?
Huh?
Was you in the Netflix special? Did they cast you?
No, I ain't want to do that.
Hell no. That nigga want no parts of that. Yeah.
No, we don't talk about, we don't glorify that shit.
There you go. I served Dahmer, Tony Neal full interview. So you can see it right there. I'm about to check that interview out. Real life productions, all right. And there's like 23,000 at least when I pulled this up. 23,000 views on that. So yo, man, why, yo, I ain't gonna lie. So like the comment section was a little bit mixed though. There were definitely people like me that say like, oh yeah, that's definitely, I could see that happening. Then there was a lot of people saying, oh, that's cap, that's cap. Like, why this nigga lying? Oh, he's saying anything to get it on the internet. And I'm thinking like, why can't people's experiences be true? Like this, and this is different than like somebody like Jaguar Wright, because he's literally just saying it like, oh, it happened. Like, I mean, like this is part of my life. Like this is what happened. And I just happen to know this dude. Jaguar Wright is different because she's like, I'm like, she's making it like she's like this savior, and like she's like trying to, because she keeps talking about, I'm worried about the victims and things like that. So it's like it's like she's on a mission, and it look like, to me, it just sounds like he telling stories. So here's a couple comments though. So, and this comment really stood out to me a little bit. So this woman said, she said, we always let them settle in nicely to our neighborhoods with no questions asked. When we move into their neighborhoods, they want every detail about our lives and they watch us like hawks. That's because they know what they are capable of. Hearing stories like this and how the guy who attacked the Buffalo supermarket was panhandling in the area in the weeks leading up to the incidents lets me know we need to pay even more attention and ask even more questions just like they do, right? So like I feel that. Like I feel that 100%, where I'm just like, yeah, like, when we do move in their neighborhoods, they are mad suspicious of us. You know what I mean? And it probably is some of that type of stuff where they know what they're capable of, but like it's just a lot of times it's based on stereotypes of like, are they going to steal, or are they going to invite, is it going to be gang activity? Is there going to be drug activity? Is it going to be loud music and noise? Is there going to be domestic, like all the negative stereotypes about black people, they're thinking about that, but it's like, no, we need to stop looking at these unassuming, Caucasian men and just thinking like everything is sweet. Like I'm suspicious as hell. Like there was one time where in my neighborhood there was like, and it was just some guy, they was working on something, whatever. But they was like giving out like some type of like candy to the kids, whatever. And like you don't know how fast I went up to these dudes, and they barely spoke English. And I went up to them and I was like, yo, nah. I had the candy. I said, and my son's like, "Oh, Dad, he get." And I'm like, "No." I said, "No, here." And I walked it back to him. Boy couldn't speak no English. And now there was a lady that like they was doing work on this lady's house that I knew, and she was like, "No, I don't think it's nothing." And I was like, "Yeah, I understand that, ma'am." I was like, "But like, you gotta ask me before you give my son anything. You gotta ask me for anything." I mean, and I had a big conversation with my son about stranger danger. Now, it wasn't like one of those things where like he got lured in. It was just like, out in the neighborhood, and like maybe the guy was being nice, but maybe he wasn't. Now, this wasn't a white man. This was like a Hispanic man. But like I'm super vigilant. Like I don't be trust. Nah, 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 nah. Like, and it's crazy because like, when you nowadays, I mean, people I don't live in the hood no more. You know what I mean? I grew up in the hood, but I don't live in the hood. And so like I am around a lot of like Caucasian people, whatever. But like my son ain't allowed to go in nobody's houses. Like not no more. Like I used to be in people's houses and going over visit. Like people used to be at my house. That's the one thing I would say, like, it's definitely different than from my childhood versus my son's childhood. Like I was a little bit more, I don't want to say like I'm sheltering him, but in a way, in a roundabout way, it might seem like I am. But nah, when it comes to certain things like that, it's like, no, you know what I mean? Sleepovers, like the only sleepovers, we only have sleepovers with family, you know what I'm saying? Like, but we don't, nah, you ain't allowed to go in people's houses, man. I don't want you seeing stuff Because that's the thing. Like when you're growing up and you go in people's houses, that's when you get exposed to stuff that maybe your parents wasn't ready for you to get exposed to. You know what I'm saying? Like you see people's, I mean, you might see evidence of people's addictions. You might see people living in squalor. You might see people having like domestic disputes and stuff like that. So like it's just like I don't necessarily trust people outside of my circle, so to speak. But like, yeah, we shouldn't necessarily be trusting everybody that moving into our neighborhood, and we should be kind of looking at them. But like my thing is like, yeah, like I could see how, you just doing your thing. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just niggas, you know what I mean? We ain't had no internet. There was no internet. There was no way to like verify like what was going on with him. This guy was just living and like they were serving him. And they would probably a lot of people probably minding their business for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like he ain't one of the bros. The Dahmer wasn't one of the bros, so it's like they not gonna keep pressing him. And even there was men that were seeing him. They're not gonna necessarily press them dudes unless like they stepping on their territory, whatever. But like it was probably business. It probably felt to them like, oh, Jeff is bringing us some business. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but there was people that saying like BS, this cap. But there was a lot of people that were saying that like why would he lie? Like what makes you think he would have to lie? Um, they said it wouldn't have made it to yeah. No, and that's the thing too. And I feel that too. Like I feel like for the most part, as much as like certain people get scrutiny for like you say drug dealers, for example, they get scrutiny for like ruining the communities. Like if niggas knew about that type of stuff, if that type of stuff was happening and like people had caught wind of it, I feel like black men would do everything in their power to like essentially serve their own kind of justice. You know what I mean? And then if you're wondering like, well, why didn't that happen to him? Well, he probably was an imposing figure. You know what I mean? He don't seem like he's a little dude. And he was targeting gay black men. He wasn't about the struggle. He was getting with men that wanted to be with him. You know what I'm saying? That so like he was being intimate with these men and then it would go south. And like he said, like they wasn't leaving. They was going to his crib and they wasn't leaving. All the different ways that he was decomposing bodies had the part. And here's the thing: this man didn't say he lived in the building that he lived in. So that's another thing where it's like. If he gave way too much detail and he said like, oh, I lived in the building, I lived upstairs and I smelled it, but maybe you'd be like, I don't know about this, whatever. But like, nah, he was in the area. You know what I mean? And back in the day, it was a lot more word of mouth, a lot more people just interacting and talking to each other. It wasn't, I mean, because we didn't have cell phones and stuff like that. So like, yeah, it was a lot of face to faces with people, and you knew people in your neighborhood. I mean, village types. I mean, people you knew people in your neighborhood. So I'm not taking it with a grain of salt. I believe everything that man said. I don't see why he would have to lie. But like, yeah, somebody had like he was getting drugs. Somebody had to be giving Dahmer the drugs. You know what I mean? It's just so happened like it's because it's a wild story. It's like, oh my God, like what? You knew Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, yeah, Jeff. What? He was eating people? That's wild, bro. That's crazy. So, but what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section if you think it's cap or you think he is telling us the truth there. So all right, and then let's move on. Let's move on. Let's see what else we got here. I got to look at my little outline here. Oh, okay, okay, yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on. Next topic. All right. So we got a big trade in the NBA. We got a big trade. So it's the Knicks and Timberwolves, in a blockbuster trade, right? Where and there was actually there was a third team involved. I think the Hornets, but like they didn't get anybody that really like stands out at all. So it's really between the Knicks and the Timberwolves. And although the trade happened last week, it just kind of finalized and like, these players are just now allowed to practice with their new teams. But the Knicks, basically the Knicks received Carl Anthony Towns in exchange for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. So let's say like overview. So if we think about last year for the Knicks, so the Knicks, it felt like they just needed some healthy firepower, right? Especially towards the end of the playoffs. The reason why they lost in the playoffs was like attrition. Like, like they probably could have beat the Pacers. But they were banged up. They were banged up. So I think that coming into this year, I think a lot of people looked at it like, all right, they acquired Mikal Bridges, right? And that was a big move. So so you're looking at their roster, you're like, damn, we don't really know who their center would be, but they got Randall, they got Mikal Bridges, they got Dante DiVincenzo, they got Jalen Brunson, they got Josh Hart, they got Anunoby, and then maybe Mitchell Robinson, whatever, and like other players that they is their core that makes up their core. So it looks good, but like, yeah, it does look like they kind of had a hole as a center because Mitchell Robinson is just defensive, you know. So, I think when I first looked at it, I was like, man, Cat is soft, man. Cat ain't doing nothing, whatever. But like now that I'm looking at it, because they got Mikal Bridges, maybe they can afford to lose the 3-point shooting in Dante DiVincenzo, and they get a certified star in Cat, whatever, right? But here's what the Knicks lose though, right? So let's think about that. I think with them running out of firepower and they weren't healthy, I think that a lot of people kind of go into the season thinking like, yo, if they can count on Randall, he's that extra piece that makes them a little bit more competitive, right? Now, what the Knicks lose though, they lose DiVincenzo, who basically set a franchise record last year with 283 threes and had a career high last year in points. He averaged like 15.5 points, like just under 16 points a game he averaged. And then they also lose that Villanova, trio, that chemistry, right, with Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo. They also lose Randall. Randall is like the heart of, like many people would say, maybe the heart of the team, right? Um, you know, his time when he was in New York, he was a 22 and 10 guy, and he helped change the culture of the Knicks and helped change their culture of losing. I mean, like he was their kind of like their first big player in a while that was like doing their thing. What do they gain though? What do they gain? Well, they finally get a center that stays healthy for the most part. Like the first 3 seasons of so Cat is a 9-year veteran. I mean, the first 3 seasons of Cat's career, he played all 82 games, right? He did miss some time last year. He was hurt a little bit last year, but they get a big that can stretch the floor. He's a premier scoring big. At the very least, he's a scoring big. Randall was a good inside scorer, but that might be a wash, right? But like, I would say though, Randall actually grabs more boards. So the only criticism I would say with Cat is the fact that ever since he started shooting 3-pointers, he's gotten weaker uh on rebounding, right? So when he came into the league, he was a 20, like when I'm saying he came into the league, like his first couple seasons, he was a 25 and 12 guy. Like, and that's what you expect from somebody that's athletic and imposing and things like that. Like he was averaging 25 points and 12 rebounds. Ever since he started shooting the three, his rebounding has gone down, and also his rim protection has gone down. So like he can get you 24 points a game, but like he's getting you 8 rebounds, as opposed to 12. And sometimes when you look at Cat stat lines, you be like, bro, why ain't you grabbing more boards, bro? You the biggest guy out there. Like, why ain't you getting more rebounds? So that's what they kind of gain and lose and things like that. Now the Timberwolves overall, last year it seemed like the Timberwolves struggled with depth a little bit. Like once you took Anthony Edwards out, once you took the combination of Towns and Gobert out, yeah, they had Nas Reed off the bench. And then, well, Jaden McDaniels, I think he started, whatever. So like, but after that, they just didn't have that much depth, and they didn't really have scoring on their second unit. Like they struggled to score a lot of times. And they struggle with guard play, right? So outside of Conley and Edwards, like who did they have to really to either run the show, or like who did they have that could really score on the perimeter? So they were big, but they didn't have that perimeter scoring. That's why they drafted Rob Dillingham, right? So Dillingham, whether he starts or whether he's on the bench. He gives them a bench boost, or he's like the ultimate starter that they need. And then Conley is like running the second unit and like gives them a little bit more consistency. Um, and whatever it is, whether they start or bench Dillingham or Conley, it makes the other player makes the second unit automatically better. It makes them a lot better. You know what I mean? So if Dillingham is coming off the bench as a young boy, that second unit gonna be nice. You know what I'm saying? But if it's Conley coming off the bench playing with the second unit, they're going to be a little bit more steady, right? So what Minnesota loses though, they lose kind of like their franchise. Like I wouldn't say, Anthony Edwards is the face of their franchise, whatever, but like he might be what many people consider the heart and soul of the team. They lose their big front court because they had those towers. They had Gobert and they had Cat. And so Cat wasn't playing his natural position last couple of years because of Gobert there. So he kind of gets to move back into his natural position. But then they also, so they do lose that. They do lose that. They lose, and it seemed like when they had the towers in there, they did have maximum rim protection. So part of why maybe Cat's rim protection went down was because they had Gobert and they didn't need him to rim protect. But and they lose essentially just a versatile big. You know what I mean? Because Gobert is one dimensional, Cat is multi-dimensional. You know what I'm saying? Um, but what do they gain? They gain a lot of three. They gain some perimeter scoring from DiVincenzo. Like I said, DiVincenzo could shoot that ball, and he's gonna be opened up. And they didn't really have that. They don't really have a guy that can like create and spot up and shoot and just overall consistent right there. So DiVincenzo gives them that. And I think Randall gives them a little bit more toughness, a little bit. He's a more aggressive rebounder than Cat was. So like, so at first I was thinking like, man, this trade was dumb, whatever. But as I'm analyzing it more, the trade is kind of attractive. Like it does help both teams out. And so one thing to say is this. These are two playoff teams here. Like we're not talking about a team that's like rebuilding or tanking. And then trade into a playoff team. Both of these are playoff teams that went pretty far in the playoffs. So to say that it's like a bad trade, I would say no, it's not a bad trade. It was confusing at first, but again, after I analyzed it a little bit and looking at their rosters and what they've acquired on the offseason, I think it does. And both teams feel like they got better with this. So like that's the most important thing. Both teams feel like they're in a good position. So who can argue with their front offices? And especially because these are two teams that are trying to get to the next level. Like they're not tanking. Like they're making these moves to etch themselves a little bit further. They're not doing these moves because they've given up. I mean, it's not the process, so to speak. It's they're in win now mode, and I think both teams feel like if they with these players, even though they might seem like some big losses, they feel like they can win now with these teams. But like yeah, like Timberwolves definitely got better. Again, it is weird that they lost Cat. I mean, because that's what we know Cat to be. He's a Timberwolf, but yeah, man, Julius Randle, man, if he can stay healthy. That's a weapon right there. You know what I'm saying? DiVincenzo, man. Like again, they don't have anybody like DiVincenzo on their team. So maybe it is a better trade than I thought. So what do you think? What do you think? What would you grade their trade? Who's a winner? Who's not? I think both teams kind of now I'm looking at it, they're even. I think they evenly um gained here. So let me know what you think in the comment section. And then real quick, we're gonna talk about some football. Two quick football topics. One has to do with like new technology, right? New technology. So check this out. And it's probably some stuff you didn't know about some football. All right. So here it says NCAA approves first helmet with a heads-up display screen. So look at that player right there. Looks like he has like some like cyborg eye there that's gonna like do something for him. So let's see what this is about.
130 years after inventing the huddle, Gallaudet University for the Deaf continues to innovate in football with their newly approved helmet that includes a heads-up display. No, I did not misspeak at the beginning. They invented the huddle back in 1894 when Gallaudet was playing another school for the deaf. Their quarterback at the time, Paul Hubbard, realized that they could read his signs to his offensive players. So he told them to form a circle around him, and then he would give the signs in the middle of that circle so none of the defensive players could see him. This was then adopted as standard practice by every other football team. This helmet is just the continuation of that same innovative mindset. With the heads-up display, quarterbacks will be able to receive plays drawn by coaches on Microsoft Surface tablets on the sideline and then immediately communicated to the screen, where they can then communicate it out to the rest of the team through signs. This was designed to help Gallaudet keep pace in the new audio-equipped helmet era that their opponents will be using, which obviously wouldn't serve any benefit to them, but it's something that I could see catching on at a larger scale, much like the huddle, which Gallaudet initially invented just for themselves, but other teams saw massive use in. Over 130.
So first off, what a bit of amazing football history there, right? So we got the team, the a small college, it's a college for the deaf, who they are the reasons why we have huddles in football. You know what I'm saying? And it was all to protect what they were doing. Okay. And so now they have some new technology, so they're trying to keep up, right? So we got a lot of headpieces and audio equipment, and guys can talk back to the coaches. Like, we're getting all those advances, right? But now, but that serves these kids no purpose because they are literally deaf, right? So now it's their way of kind of keeping up. So that's just hot to where they can like literally get like, again, I wonder how that affects their play. Like, how distracting is it? Does it just go like clear again? And does it like, so does it make it easier for them to see? Or is it something that still like kind of obstructs their vision? I'm wondering what that looks like for them. But I think it's cool technology, and yeah, I mean, it is probably something that can get adopted or adapted later on. And like, think about you sending play the exact play of what you want right onto the screen. Now, I wonder if like in a roundabout way though, that could make players a little bit lazy, because if you don't if just say if like everybody gets equipped with something like that, like receivers and like, and even though you make calls, whatever, and then they can see like what the play is, or whatever. Does it make the players a little bit more reliant on technology as opposed to like learning the game and learning the feel, or what does it do? Like, I wonder. So, but I think it's a dope concept, and I can't wait to see the first NFL player that gets to have the little screen on their helmet. But obviously, this serves a purpose for this population because, again, a lot of this is cool for the deaf. So really dope, really dope. All right, last thing before we go. I gotta give a little update about my Green Bay Packers. And so the Packers, man, the Packers, they did lose in week 4. They lost in week 4 to the Vikings, so it did suck. I was actually bummed out by that game because like I'm watching it. Like, I remember stopping, and I was at my dad's house for a second, and like we had went down 28-0 in the first half. 28-0. Now we did finally score at the end of the first half, so it was like 27, but 28-0, something like, oh my God. So nobody scores in the third quarter. And then we roared back to come back, and it was the final score was 29-31. 29-31. So like we scored mad unanswered points, what I'm saying? They basically won, by the margin of a field goal. I mean, and we missed 2 field goals in that game, right? So this was Jordan. It was Jordan Love's first game back. He had a lot of great plays, but then he had quite a few bad plays too. So he had 4 touchdowns, but he had and over 400 yards, right? The most of that week, right? The most of, I think, anybody this season for real. But he threw 3 interceptions. So like, I don't, I think when you're in hero mode, well, no, because some of that stuff was in the first half, whatever. But I like, when you're in hero mode, and you're trying to bring your team back, I do like a guy that's gonna give effort and do what he gotta do. But like, you can't turn the ball over. We gotta stop missing field goals. And cause yeah, man, like we already had a bad kicker situation last year. They're talking about how kicking numbers are like the best that they've ever been, and like we have a guy that can't make that's missing 40 yarders. He hasn't even been tested to kick a 50 because we don't even trust him. So like we're gonna have to figure it out fast, right? Other than that, what I want to talk about with the Packers is actually what's leading into week 5. So if you know, wide receiver Romeo Doubs has been suspended for one game from the Packers. And apparently like he missed 2 days of practice. He missed, I think it was Thursday and Friday. And they said that the first day they kind of checked on him and like they ain't know why he ain't come. And then when they asked Coach LaFleur if they should expect him Friday, and then he said, I hope so. So like he missed 2 days of practice, and what they're saying allegedly or supposedly, I'm gonna say supposedly because it's not a crime, but supposedly he sat out of practice or didn't go to practice because he's upset with his role on the team, right? So a couple things, if you're missing practice because you're upset, yes, you deserve to be like I'm glad that the Packers are stepping up. They had to suspend Jair Alexander for a game last year, you know what I'm saying? And he owned it, and he was doing he did some nut shit, whatever, but it wasn't the worst thing you could do. But like missing practice is bad. Like you better off like just kind of like being lousy in practice than to not go at all or go to practice and like claim you're sick or something like that. Like, I don't know, claim it, fake an injury. Like, I'd rather you fake an injury, dog, than to just not go. But like sometimes people they don't go to practice and they feel like they're making more of a statement, and it just stands for more, but it's like not good. So like he is upset with his role. He has like 12 catches for 160 some yards, no touchdowns, right? And we seen Romeo Doubs do his thing in the playoffs last year. Like, but in 2 playoff games, he went crazy. He went crazy. So a lot of us uh, assume that, oh, Romeo Doubs is about to take the next step. Jaden Reed, we already know Jaden Reed is the next is the guy, whatever. And then we looked at, so Romeo Doubs, all right, he's gonna take that next step, gonna merge. Jaden Reed is probably our best player though, so we knew he was emerging, right? We like the 2 tight ends that we got. Christian Watson, we look at like, all right, even if he can't be the best player that we think he could be, just having him out there as a second weapon or third weapon is crazy. Then we got like guys like Bo Melton, we got Malik Heath, we got and Dontavian Wicks. So Dontavian Wicks is the guy that we really like. He did his thing last week, but like that's a guy that we really really believe in. And so like it might be the Wicks Reed show in a couple years. You know what I'm saying, but that's just not how you go about things, right? I understand that he could be a little bit frustrated, but like you have to understand, like sometimes game script and game flow matter, man. So one, it ain't like you put up mad crazy numbers last year or anything like that. But you had 2 games without your starting quarterback. So like, yeah, and Malik Willis threw in those 2 games combined, he had 33 attempts, 2 games combined. So like yes, I'm sorry you didn't get the ball the way you wanted to get the ball or how many times you wanted it. Um, I'm wondering if like if there was like some type of argument or some type of disagreement or like just maybe the game plan like on Wednesday, like when they started practice for the week or Tuesday when they started practice for the week. I'm wondering if it just like it looked funny to him and he was like, man, fuck this, whatever. But like that's not how you go about it. I think, one of the things about the Packers, I think that do we have a number one? I think that's starting to dissipate, but like we come into the season and like not having a true number one receiver. And I think that's, it was good because you felt like a lot of they're young guys, they're buying into this team philosophy. But I think that only goes so far. And I think that, it might be taking its toll a little bit. We don't exactly know what happened that led to it, other than they're saying that he was mad about I guess not getting the ball or his role. But like what actually happened. But either way, no matter what, not going to practice and just kind of like playing hooky is just is it's not a good move. You know what I mean, now there are a lot of people that's saying like, oh, we should trade him. We should trade him. No, we shouldn't trade him yet. It's not time to trade him yet. But we definitely and we still got him for this year and we got him all next year. So we still have time to right the ship. But like, I'm surprised because we don't hear him. We don't really hear his name. He doesn't seem like he has that like diva mentality or anything like that. So it was strange to see it, but we'll see, man. We'll see where it goes. But like, yeah, he won't be playing this week. I think we have enough firepower though without him. With the 2 tight ends, you got Reed and you got Melton and you got Dontavian Wicks. And we got like Malik Heath. We got some guys. I mean, our running game, all that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But like Jordan Love says he's feeling better every week. So, but yeah, man, what do you think? What do you think about this week? This was episode 165. What did we talk about? We talked about a little bit about Jaguar Wright. We talked about the end of the port strike, right? The port worker strike. What else? We talked about this plug, Jeffrey Dahmer's plug, or alleged plug, right? A little bit about football, and then we talked about the cat trade, the cat and Julius Randle DiVincenzo trade, the Knicks and the Timberwolves, that big trade, that blockbuster. Only time will tell if these moves are any good. Only time will tell if Jaguar Wright is a prophecy and she's telling the full truth. Only time will tell, right? Maybe that's the title of this. Only time will tell if these workers go on strike again. If an agreement isn't finalized after January 15th. Shoot, only time will tell if players in football and NFL, if they're going to start getting these heads-up screens where you get the play fed into you as the game goes on, though. So, what do you guys think? And only time will tell if Romeo Doubs rights the ship and like gets back on track and buys back into the team, and we continue to have success as the Packers, though. So, but what do you think about this week's episode? Again, if you're still here, I need you to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the content. You know what I mean? Leave a comment below. But yeah, this is episode 165 of the 280 Plus podcast. I'm your host,